Being that the time is 5 p.m., I will call this regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for March 19th, 2025 to order. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Commissioner Forney. Absent. Commissioner Menz.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Absent. Vice President Musich.
Present.
President Abeni.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we go to the next item on the agenda, I will note that we have two members that won't be joining us tonight, so I want to do some committee assignments from the other membership here. So I will make the following appointments to our standing committees just for tonight. To Admin and Finance, I will add Vice President Musich and me as committee members, and then, of course, it'll be chaired by the Vice President Schaefer, or Vice Chair. To Planning, I'll appoint Commissioner Alper as Chair, and I'll appoint Commissioner Olson and Vice President Musich as members. And then to Recreation, I'll appoint Commissioner Schaefer as a member. Everybody got it, or questions? Okay. So that taken care of. The agenda is before us. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
I'd like to move our regular meeting minutes of March 5th, 2025. Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. With that, we will move to reports of officers, and I'll be turning to Superintendent Bangora.
Thank you, President Abeni and Commissioners. This will be brief. I want to give a quick update on where we are currently in registration, and then a real brief update on centralized registration, of course. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of read this through here. We have successfully implemented 2 new registrations systems this year: a centralized registration system for youth sports and a sliding scale fee structure for all recreation programs. I'm sure you're all aware. These updates have significantly improved both user experience and operational efficiency. The centralized registration system has simplified the process, making it easier for participants to sign up for youth sports programs such as baseball, softball, track, and flag football. The sliding scale fee structure allows registrants to choose what they pay based on recommended guidelines, ensuring revenue from participation across the city. So, quick stats. As of Tuesday, March 18th, yesterday, the current registration numbers for youth sports are as follows: baseball, 941 kids; softball, 180 kids; track, 310 kids; flag football, 97 kids. So total kids registered at this time is 1,528 youth or kids. Total revenue at this time is $54,677.50. As we look at the early returns, have been really positive, with strong participation and revenue from registration fees across various programs and participants from all over the city. So far, feedback from users has been really favorable, citing ease of use and quick access. We will have better numbers for you as we get further into it. We don't want to start to kind of compare on these numbers at this very moment. We have time yet, but I will share with you that we're doing well. And as soon as I get very clear numbers between 24 and 25, I'll give you more specific numbers on this, but we're doing well. Recreation Center programs. On March 5th, the Recreation Department launched the new initiative to create financial equity with a sliding fee scale and fee alignment process. This initiative was also designed to promote better opportunities to generate revenue citywide. As of March 18th, yesterday, 2025, in the entire summer of 2024, the Recreation Department, which includes rec programs, leads, Spark Studio, Youth Line, rec centers, achieved a total activity revenue of $431,082. That was in 2024. In the first 13 days, from March 5th to the 18th, which is yesterday, of the new initiative in 2025, the Recreation Department has achieved $361,914 in activity revenue, which accounts for approximately 84% of the total summer 2024 revenue. So that's pretty impressive. And that's just in 2 weeks. So we're on our way, 85% already. And that was before the entire summer of 2024. Activity revenues for neighborhood day camps from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024 totaled $54,373. Activity revenue for neighborhood day camps from March 5th to March 18th, again, same time frame, totaled $63,997, representing a 15% increase in revenue over the entire year of 2024 in just the first 13 days of registration. So these are really good numbers, really good. Basically what we're saying, we're not chasing revenue, but we're chasing participation. We're teaching, we're looking at young people and our kids and our families registering and signing up for programs. And so revenue reflects activity. It reflects the number of people that are coming to our parks. So I wanted to share those numbers with you, and we'll give more indication of where we are currently. And I know it's important for this board to see data and revenue and KPIs, and so we'll continue to share that every single time that we come forward during the report of officers. We'll share that with you. Also, the last thing I want to share is that last Tuesday, staff, myself, Director Barch, and Manager Grates, we met with the Legacy Coalition, or Legacy, and we call them partners. They're our partners, but we, legacy teams that have been here at the boardroom and have stepped up and have been very. We've appreciated their coming to the boardroom and speaking on behalf of the young people that they represent and the teams. We had a very good meeting. Commissioner Rucker was there, of course, and Commissioner Menz, who we're very grateful you were both there, of course. And we had a really great meeting. We discussed, we were in there for about an hour and a half, I think it was. And we walked away with an agreement that we all, from staff, from our commissioners, and from the coalition, on a really good path moving forward with an open league. And I think I'm very, very proud of that. And I think we're in a really good space. Before this board today will be the resolution, which directs us to move forward. I will tell you that it was a very positive meeting, and I'm very proud of the fact that we're at this point where we're having these really great conversations that we probably haven't had in years, but we're having it. And we will fall under centralized registration. We have some things to work out yet. We know that registration happens in June and for fall sports, and that's our goal. So we'll be bringing to the board updates as we go forward. And I think we're in a really great place. And again, grateful to both of our commissioners that are there and working with us going forward, and staff that have done a great job and have worked really hard to get to this point. And so I wanted to share that also with you. We meet again Tuesday of next week at 5 o'clock, and we'll continue to update this board on how we're making progress moving forward. So with that, I yield to the President, President Benny, and commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the superintendent? I'll just say I love that kind of reporting. I mean, I like your other type of reporting as well, but the numbers are really interesting to me, and I appreciate you saying we're not chasing revenue. I think the way I'd characterize it is it sure shows participation, but it also shows that we're thinking about a sustainable enterprise here, and that's really important. Because we also have in place, of course, our relief valve for families that need to have a lower amount to pay. So this is very exciting. It seems like some of the things are working. I see nodding. Okay, awesome. Okay, with that, before I go to the reports of appointees to outside boards, I do have some appointments to make to a couple of the committees. And I think this was due to, if people have questions, we might have to get the secretary to help here. But this was due to some shifting of how the couple of these committees are, I don't know, chartered or staffed or whatever. But I'll just say, to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the Park Board staff liaison will be Emma Prosciutta. To the Bicycle Advisory Committee, the MPRB staff liaison will be Tyler Peterson. Also, on the Bicycle Advisory Committee, the community member will be Jeremy Bergerson. And then finally, the staff, MPRB staff liaison to the Homegrown Minneapolis Committee, or Homegrown Minneapolis, I guess, is Becca Gross. Okay? With that, are there any reports of appointees to outside boards, commissions, or committees? Commissioner Menz.
Thank you, President Benny. Yeah, I went to the MWMO meeting, which is 4 to 6 times a year. Anyways, there's a really cool project that they're working on with a bunch of different partners along Marshall Street in my district that will involve some stormwater management and how how the water runs into the river. It seemed like a really cool place where the MWMO is acting as sort of this conduit organization. Lots of great things to say about the park board staff and the work that might go on during that time in that stretch. It's a really important stretch of the Mississippi, and it's really nice to see different jurisdictional groups working together and planning for that, so that it's not just pops up and like, oh, it's an afterthought. Because when there's construction on that road from the county, there's going to be a lot of sediment and a lot of waste that can get right easily into the river. Otherwise, that's it.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other lights, so I think we can move to consent. Would somebody please move the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda as a slate.
Is there a second?
Second.
Heard a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Now we'll take some reports out of committees. The Planning Committee.
Yes, I would like to move Resolution 2025-32, resolution removing the term master plan from all official MPRB documents.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-32, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
Okay, I'd like to move Resolution 2025-35, a resolution approving the final concept plan for Cleveland Park Phase 2 improvements, a part of the North Service area of Minneapolis.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-35, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That carries.
Okay, and lastly, I'd like to move Resolution 2025-44, resolution approving renaming Excel Field Park to Excel Energy Park.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in, we can take, Secretary, I think we need a roll call on this. Would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Alper,
Aye.
Commissioner Forney, absent. Commissioner Menz,
Aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rucker,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson, absent. Vice President Musich,
Aye.
President Abeni.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
Thank you. Turn to Admin and Finance for reports.
Yes, I would like to bring forward from the Admin and Finance Committee Resolution 2025-46. This is a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Friends of Minnehaha Park for Minnehaha Regional Park.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, I had some questions. We really had a great time in committee, kind of hearing from the Friends group. I would like to kind of understand how this new structure kind of compares to what we have currently, and if there's anything else like this currently in our system, a similar kind of MOU, and kind of how this fits in our toolkit. Partially because, you know, we're still working on our volunteer work that we have had presented to us, so I'd kind of like to understand how it fits.
Welcome Deputy Superintendent Ringgold.
President Abeni, Commissioners, I'm happy to do this. Commissioner Schaefer and I had a really good conversation, but it does sound like there are questions maybe coming up in the community about how this relates to other types of documents, so I will, and I happen to have a slide that helps with that, so we'll go right there. Before we get there, we've got just an overview slide. Again, this is a relationship between the Park Board and the Friends of Minnehaha Park. Friends of Minnehaha Park began working in the system in about 2022, and they've built a very good volunteer base and successful relationships with staff, and they've established themselves as a 501c3. As they have grown with us, and actually even in the initial conversations, they had their sights, I think, set a little higher than, I shouldn't say higher, that suggests some level of importance, broader, maybe is what I will say, than, and then a park stewardship agreement. I think over time they have some interest in fundraising, they have some interest in programming, they have some interest in grant writing, they have kind of a whole nother host of pieces that they're interested in. And so we looked at the MOU really as this bridging piece. And organizationally, we are looking at kind of what our suite of agreements are, what the suite of relationships are that we want to be able to enter into with different groups who might, on one hand, just really want to have an annual agreement with us as a park stewardship agreement and as a group of folks who are taking care of a piece of land within the context of our natural area management plans and all of those pieces. On the other component of it, you might have something as sophisticated as an operating agreement, something like what we have with the Lopet Foundation, where we actually have a group who has maybe a 20-some-year relationship with us, who has done a donation agreement, created a building within a space, and we have really a relationship there, a strong relationship around programming, fees, a kind of a whole component of it. Fundraising agreements are most typically project-based. So you usually get into a fundraising agreement around a specific project, and once those funds are raised, then that terminates. A donation agreement is a little different. So fundraising, people are raising money and they're contributing them to a project we're doing. A donation agreement is usually no public dollars, or at least no park board dollars are associated in it, and then those dollars are implemented by the other group, and that asset is donated back to the park board. What we really are looking at here is this memorandum of understanding, which starts to look at a friends group who says, you know what, we're not quite to some of these bigger relationships yet, but we actually want to do a little bit more than what a park stewardship agreement is. And instead of trying to layer those things into the staff who are managing those park stewardships agreements, it looks at establishing this MOU with an agreement rep to help that group really navigate through the system in a way that we can review a grant application and make sure it's appropriate. We can ask the questions maybe beyond one particular part of the organization of whether the work that group really furthers what the board has set forward as priorities. So that's the MOU. We're anticipating doing more pieces like this in the future with other groups. And we might even be thinking a little bit more about what this overall suite of relationship looks like, and how individual groups might move in one direction or the other direction, depending on their level of interest. So that was that. Okay.
Just a couple more questions. How is the support function of this working? Will there be regular intervals that you meet with this MOU organization so that they have support working both ways?
President Abeni, Commissioner Schaefer, yes. So there is some responsibility of the agreement rep to be checking in on the group and having a regular relationship. In fact, the Friends of Minnehaha Park asked us to strengthen that language a little bit so it would be a little bit more collaborative and we could be working on goals around it versus just assessing kind of how we're doing on the agreement. So we would be looking at some regular contact. The agreement also lays out things like when the Friends group can use a facility for a meeting, say once a month, without a fee based on the amount of resources and time they're putting into the organization. So there is a regular check-in on it.
And who is the staff responsible for the MOU?
President Abeni, Commissioner Schaefer, that will be appointed by the superintendent as soon as this is approved.
Okay. Well, I guess my feedback would be is I feel like we're in process of figuring out our volunteer program and that we've kind of already slotted a direction without maybe some of this other work leading up to it. And I'm fully supportive of this direction and know how important the gift of time is to the organization. at the same time, I think we want to make sure that these groups are set up for success, long-term, if that's what they so wish. And if not, what is our backup program for staff support? Because, again, we won't want a scenario where we make great progress for 15 years and then it goes backwards. So that's just my feedback, and I think I'll look forward to the rest of the volunteer work kind of progressing along and figuring out how this fits.
President Abeni and Commissioner Schaefer, thank you for that feedback, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. A lot of the work laid out in this MOU is really in addition to volunteer work, so it's not necessarily the volunteer work itself, but it's those other pieces like grant writing or bringing other resources into the organization that doesn't fit neatly into just the volunteer portfolio we currently have.
And my only other comment to that is, I think there's lots of parks within the system that would like to write grants. And so I think that is something you need to have on your radar and be prepared to facilitate those same requests.
President Abeni and Commissioner Schaefer, that's actually precisely why the MOU, because we do have a lot of groups who want to write grants, and we need a way to be able to say which groups actually have the authority to write grants and provide them with guidance so that they're not writing grants for items that we're writing grants for, that we're not in competition or they're not competing amongst each other. So a lot of that work, and you kind of looking at competition and trying not to be duplicating efforts, will likely also filter into the grants committee, because that's the group within our organization who really watches for that duplication.
Thank you. Commissioner Menz.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Schaefer, for elevating those questions. I also was interested in this page and how maybe, so in the past, these agreements have come under some conflict with our union workers. So around like what work is done in the parks versus what work's done by volunteers. Has there been sort of a softening of those issues, or has that been worked out, or are we in the process of working that out with these agreements going forward?
President Abeni and Commissioner Menz, that's always a really important consideration, that we are not placing volunteers in a spot over paid staff. And in fact, when we talked, I think last meeting on the volunteerism goal, I think one of the important things that came out there was that even the community understands that we're augmenting, that we're not providing, and we're not creating something different. And so it seems like the community, when we think purely about volunteerism, also understands that we can't be supplanting staff by doing it. And I go back to this particular MOU really focuses on those spaces outside of those volunteer pieces. So it's either pushing it back to, if it's a true volunteer like stewardship agreement, it pushes it back to the stewardship agreement. So it's really viewed through that type of lens. If there are large group events, it's actually directed by our volunteer staff to them so that there is a clear relationship, so that we have the ability to not supplant staff in this work. But I really want to stress that certainly this group's work with us to date has really been strongly around volunteerism and doing work through the Park Stewardship Agreement and Earth Day type events. But this is actually a lever into looking at other ways they can bring resources to the system.
Thank you for that answer. And thank you really for clearly outlining the different agreements we have within this one MOU that we've got. It really helps formulate what our relationships are with different partners. I know that that's probably off topic of this particular resolution. So thank you, President Abeni, for the time.
No, those were good questions by my colleagues, and so I don't see any other lights, so let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2025-46, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That resolution carries. So let me see. We have one item down in unfinished business, and let me see, we have 5 minutes till open time, so would somebody please move the resolution in unfinished business?
We don't have something.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at I have my digital copy.
You have an old copy. It's gone.
But it's my old copy from Friday, so it's not that long ago, so, okay. So with that, wow, okay, we can move then to petitions and communications. So I'll first call on Commissioner Olson.
Pass.
Commissioner Rucker?
I just want to thank staff and whoever put it together to get Fireview Park done, their floor done. The floor looks amazing. It's been years, in the making, but I stopped by the other day and just want to thank whoever was a part of getting this done. Just a huge thank you. Superintendent.
Okay. Commissioner Alper?
Pass.
Commissioner Schaefer?
I'll just say the mountain lion is on its way. It's making progress. The taxidermist has been giving us updates, and everyone's real excited to see the unveiling whenever that happens, maybe in a month, maybe in a month and a half. So stay tuned for a date to get on the calendar.
Okay. Commissioner Menz?
Thanks. I just really wanted to reiterate some of the things that Superintendent Bangura said and to give Superintendent Bangura a little bit of a shout out. I thought that the meeting with the community partners was really facilitated well, and I think that there was strong agreement. It's really interesting when sometimes this work comes together, where there's conflict and there's disagreement, and then it works in a way that can be positive. And I think that I really appreciate the superintendent finding that cut through, and the community members who are here today. It was some of the most rewarding work that I had seen that we get to do up here. So thank you for that. In my community, we have been anxiously, and the numbers for the youth sports, I hear a lot about this, and the coaches, that's great. So that means that if we've got 1,000 and 50,000, that's about the amount that we charge for the activity. So as some of you may know, in the past, I've done things with sliding scale. And you never know who's going to pay what. Sometimes you have a prediction, but you don't really want to ask. But if it comes out about what you suggest, then we're on the right track. I'm interested to see how the numbers for revenue were in the past, because I've found that usually you get more revenue when you trust people and you ask people to give what they can in a way that's not confronting. So I really want to congratulate the park board and the staff that worked on centralized registration to ensure that that was a part of this and an easy part for people to do. So that's great to hear.
Thank you. Vice President Musich?
Thank you, President Abeni. On my way in today, I noticed the ice is off at Lake Nokomis. So no more ice fishing for anyone this season. I did see a couple of people out there yesterday, which was a bit nerve-wracking. So anyhow, ice is off, and I'm sure before we know it, people will be swimming, and excited about that. So I'm excited to hear about progress that's being made with the school board around the goal that we set for both our institutions this year, around development of a pilot project for swimming. I'm hopeful we'll hear something about that in in our recreation committee soon. Thanks.
Yes, Council Rice?
Would you entertain just a brief legislative update on an urgent matter?
I would absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sending something out to commissioners. I just learned within the last 48 hours of 3 bills that are very concerning. They're bills that are being promoted by housing advocates and developers with the purpose and goal of lowering the cost of building housing, particularly affordable housing, in commercial districts, as well as single-family housings. But one means by which they do it is they limit or completely remove the ability of local units of government to impose fees, dedication, or exactions on new development. The Park Board's park dedication fee is exactly that. a fee, a dedication, and an exaction. One of the bills is being carried by Senator Clark. I've already communicated with him. He's told me that's not his intent. We're going to have a meeting next week, but these bills have already moved through committees in the House and the Senate. They're in a second-level committee. The legislative deadlines have been set. They're now well past the halfway mark, and I think we have about 2 or 3 weeks at the most to committee deadline, so this is a very urgent matter. We've been asked to help on this by the League of Cities. They're aware that we have this. I have to say this. I've known that the development community for a long time has not liked these dedication fees for parks or streets or other ones, and it's a formidable alliance because it's had the developer community and housing advocates, but this park dedication fee ordinance, which has provided about $30 to $40 million over its existence, is very much under threat right now, unless we can change that.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that report. Hopefully, Commissioner Menz will follow up a little bit with you since he's chairing the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. With that, I'll go ahead and, we're not quite done with our main meeting agenda, but we're very close. But with that, I will go ahead and read the open time rules and open time. So thanks to those of you who have come to speak tonight, during tonight's open time. The board's open time rules are as follows. I will call on people from the speaker list only. Names are added to the speaker list by calling in before 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting or by adding it in person at the board meeting before 5:30 p.m. The allotted time for all speakers shall not exceed 15 minutes. We have 7 speakers, so we'll give each person 2 minutes. Times may not be transferred to someone else, and please watch the timer and stay within your allotted time. This is an opportunity for you to address the board. We are listening, but we will not respond. That said, please don't hesitate to contact any of the commissioners for dialogue and further discussion. To protect the privacy of individuals, please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issues or pending litigation. Discriminatory or harassing words directed at anyone will not be tolerated. Each speaker is asked to state their name and address or where they live. And with that, the first name I will call is Andy Otto, followed by Dylan Welsh.
Thank you so much, Madam President and Commissioners. My name is Andy Otto. I'm the Executive Director of Twin Cities Pride. I thought it was important for me to be here today, as I know that you have a pending thing coming your direction on THC in the parks. Last year, as many of you know, Twin Cities Pride has been around for 53 years here in the city of Minneapolis. Last year, Twin Cities Pride successfully hosted a THC garden, fully complying with state and city laws, and faced no issues, experiencing great success. However, due to needing the location of the garden outside of the park property, we incurred additional logistical and financial costs, which setting up on the street. As you may know, Twin Cities Pride is the second largest festival in the state of Minnesota, second only to the state fair, with an estimated attendance of over 500,000 people downtown that weekend. We take great pride in maintaining safety and incident-free event year after year. Notably, our THC garden last year exceeded expectations, even tripling the volume of our beer garden within the park and drawing attention from local leaders, including the mayor of Minneapolis. This provided a unique opportunity to demonstrate how a THC garden can operate safely and effectively with no issues. We showcased our compliance to inspectors and the police department and the mayor, all of whom were impressed by the seamless operation. This year, an effort to reduce logistical costs, because as you may know, this year has been incredibly difficult on the LGBTQ community, and improve the overall event experience for our attendees. Twin Cities Pride is hoping to relocate the THC garden onto park property. We kindly request that you consider looking and approving the request that is coming your direction in approval of THC in the park system.
Thank you. Dylan Welsh, followed by Jimmy Lucky.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Madam President. My name is Dylan Welsh. I am a tradesperson with M.A. Mortensen working on a project here in Minneapolis. At that site, I have taken it upon myself to decrease waste and redirect reusable materials for community use. My recent focus has been diverting high-quality lumber. Amid concerns about where and how to redirect that material, I came vis-a-vis the Star Tribune article this morning by Susan Dew outlining the sudden removal of play equipment from Loring Greenway Park to address safety and structural concerns. I realize the commissioner has discouraged ad hoc or improvised solutions for liability reasons. Respectfully, I'd like to request the board to consider adopting a temporary solution in the form of a play area built from recycled lumber, which I would like to provide on Mortensen's behalf. I envision something in the vein of a play village of small stick frame structures at or under 5.5 feet, serving a rare population shorter than myself. Something as simple as a house, shop front, city hall. I would also be more than happy to provide my own and organize additional volunteer labor while respecting, of course, the city's union workers. And to collaborate with city officials on safe, accessible, and equitable design. The woman I love and live with holds graduate degrees in public health and occupational therapy and works to develop community programs for disabled and marginalized youth, so I deeply appreciate the imperatives of accessibility and safety. I also believe that crises provide communities the opportunity to deepen and strengthen their bonds if given the agency to do so. I invite the board to imagine parents and children, rather than being asked to break up logistically fragile bonds or asking the toddlers that frequent the park to pursue Zen mastery in what would otherwise remain a sandpit, enjoying instead continued use of equipment of an equipped park and the chance to connect further through the process of design, construction, decoration of this interim measure, painting the play village, learning about accessible design. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy Lucky, followed by Charles Moses.
Hi, Jimmy Lucky. I'm going to yield my time. Andy already addressed the issues for me.
What?
So, hi, I'm Jimmy Lucky. I'm going to yield my time. I'm Andy's backup.
Oh,
And so,
okay, thank you very much, thank you. Charles Moses, followed by Coach Talley.
Good evening, everybody. Charles Moses, Executive Director, Hospitality House Youth Development. I want to start just by thanking the board members who have listened to our constant and consistent voice around centralized registration and the negative impact and effect that that would have on our inner city community children and families. I want to thank Superintendent Al Bangora for committing time and committing resource in your staff to sitting at the same table together with some of us that are in community so that we can band together to do impactful, powerful, and meaningful work. Coming to these meetings does come at a sacrifice for me. I have a beautiful 6-month-old son at home and a 5-year-old son at home. And so my responsibilities as executive director at Hospitality House cause me to have to put in hard work, many hours. And so I just say that to say that me coming to come voice for the families and the communities in North Minneapolis and Hospitality House does come at an expense to my family, as I'm sure your service does too. So I appreciate your ear. I had an opportunity to meet with a gentleman today who reminded me that several years ago, Hospitality House, through the Strider Track program, would fill the North community 2 days, 2 hours a day throughout the summer with over 100 children that would participate in track in the city of North Minneapolis. Commissioner Rucker's well familiar with Hospitality House Striders, as he's had children who have participated in that. And sadly, this spring, I'm concerned about baseball in the black community amongst our children, in addition to sports like track and others. So to work quickly along a resolution for centralized registration and how that impacts our inner city community is of dire need, because our children cannot afford to go a spring or a summer season without recreational structured activities. You kind of hear what happens in the news and you're aware of what happens in the community. and we're working feverishly to keep our community and our children safe and empowered. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Coach Talley, followed by Al Flowers Jr.
Breathe in, breathe out. Welcome, my friends. I want to give an ultimate thank you to all of you. First of all, again, it's been a long time coming when hopefully we can pass something that will become a policy and not a directive, so we can see it through to a successful ending in what we're trying to get at. I've been preaching that for the last 8 years about policy and directives are two different things, and it's very important to our community that we make policy around recreation and whatever we call recreation, folks, because that holds, again, people accountable, as we know, to doing the work. Directives don't hold anybody accountable, right? I can't go to the staff and say, hey, well, what happened? Where is the data, right? Because that was a directive. As a policy, the board holds the people accountable. So I just want to thank y'all. I hope that all of you in your hearts receive the message about centralized registration, not only as a thing to do, but a thing that we need, right? Because getting us to the table, and hopefully we're there for more, to help the staff create an advisory recreational committee from neighbors who do the work, we all could do better working together. We're not here to intimidate or run anything. We're not even here to ask for $1. As Charles said, he can't even go see his kids. Well, guess what? I've been doing that for 45 years. But all those kids were my kids. Did you hear what I said? All those kids were my kids. And that means more to me than any job that I could ever do. This park system is something that I cry for. And many of you know that. So please support the resolution tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Al Flowers Jr., followed by Al Flowers.
Thank you for having me. I come up here today to ask for everybody to support the resolution that's coming aboard to allow for the staff to follow the directive of Superintendent Bangor and open up an option for what we call the preformed teams, or the partner agencies, as we like to call them now. I came up here for a couple months now, and I use different words like it's bigger than sports, intentional relationships. Today I want to talk about commitment. And that's why I want to thank Commissioner Mins and Rucker and Superintendent Bangor, because what they're showing, and I'm hoping that the rest of the board as long will show with them, is unity and commitment to these children. When we're talking about working with some of these young folks who already feel like they're left out, they already feel like people counted them out, they already feel like they don't have a chance anyway, we want y'all to, I want to go back to my children and tell them it's commitment. The reason why my children ain't here now because they're actually practicing for the playoffs coming up for basketball. But commitment is the word that I really want everybody to think about. Not only just sports, as I've been saying, it's bigger than sports. Our young folks want to be able to feel welcome into the parks. They want to be able to be a part of the programming that's going on in the parks. We want to have a say-so to ensure that the programming is actually efficient and effective for our young folks in the parks. So we're hoping that this right here, this resolution that will be voted upon today, is just a step of many to show the commitment to these young folks that's out here, our African-American children, our Native children, that we stand in full solidarity with. I'm up here now as a calmer person because I was angry, and some of my elders told me that I had to relax because this is moving the right way. And I know sometimes I might have seemed like I'm hard to work with, but I do care about these babies, and I hope that everybody else do. And I just want us to remember that the parks are fundamental to our youth. You know, some of the stuff I'm hearing, and I'm not going to speak on anybody else's, what they're coming up here to advocate for, but let's remember our youth are going to be there. So we have to ensure that while we want to, that we have adult recreation and different things for our adults that's around, let's ensure that our youth and our children feel safe, and they are the priority first when we're talking about the parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Al Flowers.
First, thank you. We doing a lot of thank you tonight. And that's thanks to Commissioner Rucker, Commissioner Mann, and our Superintendent Bangor, and also with staff, with Jack, that we sat down together and we came up with a solution. I spend my day, I was over at the Capitol, I got a juvenile bill to help kids from 8 to 18 that's struggling, trying to make them have a better way. That's what I did. I've been doing it all, and I don't get paid for that. I don't get paid to go up to the Capitol. I'm not a legislator, but that's what I've been doing the last 3 weeks, talking to Senator Champion, Senator Hoffman about our kids in Hennepin County, especially here in Minneapolis. So what's happening here, which I hope y'all support, I hope everybody support, like we are all on one page for the kids so they can go back. And like AJ said, that was a hard chore, trying to say, hey, calm down, let's wait on the superintendent to help us get through this, and you did. And now it's up to the board to take us to the next place, and I believe it's gonna work. I believe this is bringing unity with our cultural communities that's out there trying to play. It's emotional to me because they should have been at the table a long time ago, but we're not going back. But we should have been working together about all these kids they got that's out there. And if you go out there and see them playing in the park, it won't. And they under control. These coaches can help them, and y'all can help them too with this resolution. And so that's. That's why we're here. We just here because this is a thank you tour right now to the park board to make this happen. And I'm not gonna go over my time, Madam Chair. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go over my time today. But thank y'all for everything y'all done did in this. These commissioners and the superintendent and Jack, what they have did. I'll be glad to go on the radio Sunday talking about we moving in a different direction. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Okay, with that, that was our last speaker. I'll close open time. And we were actually on the main agenda at petitions and communications, and I'll call it myself, but I'll pass. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Great, and at 5:47, I will call the Admin and Finance Committee to order. Secretary, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Alper.
Present.
Have to look and see who's added, sorry. Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Vice President Musich.
Present.
President Abeni.
Here.
And Chair Pro Tem Schaefer.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
Great, can I have someone please move the agenda?
I'll
So-
move.
Second? Oh, not in committee. No,
Any concerns? All those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes. May I have someone move the approval of the minutes?
I'll move the minutes of March 5th, 2025 for approval.
Any questions? All those in favor of the minutes approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. We have several action items before us today. The first one I will go ahead and move, Resolution 2025-49. This is a resolution authorizing a permit for Metro Transit temporary use of West Lake of the Isles Parkway between Penn Avenue South and Sheridan Avenue South for one bus per weekday for the duration of the City of Minneapolis concrete pavement rehabilitation project in the Kenwood neighborhood and charging a fee for actual costs. Is there any questions on this particular item, or would anyone like a presentation? Great, I am familiar with this item, and thank you for the input from staff around that. So all those in favor of this item, please say aye.
Aye.
I meant to say aye too, so you can include the aye. Any opposed? Great. Can someone please move the next resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2025-56. Resolution approving an agreement with Green City Accord to collaborate on tree planting project, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board Planting Project 2024.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Elbert.
Yeah, thank you. I think on the eve of I believe this is our third package, or we've done this annually now. I think it's time to revisit some of the key components of what an offset credit is, because we've never actually had that presentation here. And so I think, you can do a little Google search for this as well, but I would like to share there are a few main components: additionality, permanence, leakage, verifiability, and avoidance of double counting. And I believe that I know that we've had our project certified by a third party, but this is a voluntary market. I don't want to get into it, but I just want to share that we do some of these things, but we do not do all of these things, and that is what is concerning to me. And I want to read one in particular, is additionality, and that means that the emissions reductions would not have occurred without the offset project. So a project is only additional if it goes beyond what would have happened under a business as usual scenario. So without additionality, purchasing the offset, which I saw recently, I believe it's the Wild is purchasing offsets, the Loppet Foundation is purchasing offsets, the American, the Architects of America, whatever their organization is called, purchased offsets for a conference that was held here. And they are purchasing offsets because they believe that the funding that they provide is going to lead, is literally, it's going to offset their emissions. And so if we are not doing something extra, there's no emissions reductions. It's in fact, increasing emissions. And so I want to read one more thing, and this is from a professor of forestry at the University of Minnesota. But right now we're making the case that all of the trees that we plant every year, they're all additional. And I just have a really hard time with that, thinking that would we ever plant 0 trees? No, we wouldn't. We spent $11 million on our forestry department this past year. We're going to spend $11.8 million this upcoming year. So to say that we wouldn't do it is crazy, and I'm going to keep going, and when my time runs out, I'll go for my second if you don't mind, Chair Schaefer. But so this is what the professor says. In the case of Minneapolis, the case that trees would not be planted without the carbon payment is contradicted by 150 plus years of strong taxpayer support for a variety of urban park amenities, including trees. May I go for my second? Or?
Yes, you may go,
Okay.
and I think Secretary Ringgold has reset it.
Oh, perfect. If MPRB did not maintain its urban trees, this is my quote, okay, from the professor, park board commissioners would lose their re-election campaigns to candidates who promise to fix these problems. To me, this is indistinguishable from the case of the Eco Lodge that said they would have to log their forest without the carbon payment. In both cases, a non-credible claim is being made about the extent to which a forestry activity would have occurred in the absence of the payment. To the extent that there are well-documented inequities in urban canopy cover, those closely reflect the distribution of political power in the city and the priorities of those in power. And resolving those does not require obtaining money from an unconventional source, but instead using existing funding sources and authority to redress those inequities. So, to say that I realize that there is no law that says that we have to plant trees in the city, a certain baseline. But we would all be voted out if we planted 0 trees. And so this is why I find the issue of additionality to be really concerning with this project. And I know I've said this every year, and so I'm saying it again. And I just think people believe that we're going to plant a tree, or we're going to, and I realize we're not saying we're going to plant a tree. We're going to, we're planting the carbon in the tree. That's what we're packaging up and what we're selling and what they're buying. But to me, that's also indistinguishable from other market mechanisms. And it's incredibly appealing to get, quote unquote, free money. But I would rather we make it real tangible to people. Let's have them purchase a tree. They could sponsor a tree. They could pay us annually. I love what we're doing with our philanthropic program that we've started, to focus on some of our other maintenance issues. We all said we care about trees, and to me, this is just not the right way to go about it. So, thank you, and I urge you to vote no.
Thank you, Commissioner Alpert, for sharing your opinion. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this matter? And we may need to call up Assistant Superintendent Barrick, but we'll start with Commissioner Musich. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. So many years ago, when the previous board realized that we would no longer be able to sustain planting the amount of trees that we were under the ash canopy replacement plan, we were directed by board president at that time, Commissioner Forney and I, to try to identify ways to increase the available funding for expansion of the urban canopy, and to ultimately reach a goal of planting 2 trees for every 1 tree that was lost. Under our current budget, we are able to replace 1-for-1 trees that die due to disease or damage or storm events. We are not able to plant the 8,000 to 9,000 trees that we were planting annually under the replacement canopy plan. And that's because we no longer are levying funds to do that. What we are trying to do with this program is to have a revenue source that is not dependent on taxpayers, that allows us to expand the urban canopy and to continue planting, if not at the same level that we were under the ash canopy replacement plan, at least as close as we can get. It's going to take time for this program to be providing the amount of revenue necessary to do that, but it is allowing us to plant more trees than we otherwise would have been able to do. And we don't have to increase people's property taxes to do it. And I understand that in an ideal world, taxpayers could just pick up the bill for this. We don't live in that ideal world, and this is the only revenue generating strategy that we were able to identify and spin up in a way that started generating revenue immediately. So, as I've said, every time something like this comes before the board, if people have ideas or have been approached by someone that has another way for us to get the monies we need to expand the urban canopy, I'm happy to have a conversation with them and look at how we can spin that program up as well. Because, right now we're not bringing in enough revenue to fully plant the number of trees that we were planting before. So that's all I have to say on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. And Commissioner Menz, your light is on.
Thank you. I'm not on this committee, so I appreciate you letting me speak. I did have a question, because this has been a very challenging issue to reconcile with, because I hear Vice President Musich, I know that you all were charged with trying to find additional money, and I think that this group has done a good job of figuring out some creative opportunities. I guess I'm wondering why we didn't, or the group wasn't able to renew the tree levy that was there. Like, what was the reasoning around why we couldn't do that?
Commissioner Musich's light on. Would you like to speak to that, or would you like, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So the tree levy that was in place before was a direct response to an environmental crisis and disaster. And that was just like when they had to go through and cut down all of the trees after we had Dutch elm disease. We went in and we said to the people, this is what it's going to cost to cut down all these trees and replace them. And we're putting in place a levy to do that. We don't have a crisis right now to respond to that would allow us to utilize that mechanism. So legally, we cannot create another levy to plant more trees. Maybe if we had something that came in and killed all the trees again in a similar way, we'd be able to do that, but we do not currently have a disaster to respond to.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Musich, and Commissioner Menz for the last time. And then I'm going to have Assistant Superintendent Barrick, if there's anything else you would like to speak to this discussion, I'd like to have you come forward.
So there's a, we can't do a levy unless there's a disaster based on state law? I'm sorry, I mean, I don't know, this is a committee meeting, so I figure we should go.
You know
back
what,
and
I'm going to
forth,
call, excuse me, let's call up Assistant Superintendent Barrick. Thank you for your input, and if there's anything else generally new about this agreement that you'd like to highlight, in addition to any of the questions or comments that you'd like to clarify that we all have spoken.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair Schaefer. Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, I'm going to actually invite Michaela New up in a minute to have her walk through a brief presentation, kind of a current state of affairs. As Commissioner Elper pointed out, this is our 4th project that we've registered. We've brought 3 projects before you that every year is the previous year's trees planting. In terms of additionality to address that concern, there are many carbon registries, carbon market registries out there. We work with City Forest Credits out of Seattle, who defines additionality as trees that are planted voluntarily and not to fulfill a legal requirement. That's their definition. That's been put up against other, registry standards, and that's been found to be acceptable. And so, while it does not meet the general definition of trees had to be planted in addition to, their definition as a registry is that these trees aren't being planted because we cut down a bunch of trees and we had to replace them. Those trees are not eligible. We do actually take those trees out of these projects when we do the analysis. Phil Payani's here. He's our data guru in the background with this. So he takes our planting from each season. He factors out the ones that were part of a restitution replacement. We factor in 20% mortality, and we can sell the projected carbon credits, 10% of the projected carbon credits in the first year, and then there's a series of sale points on the project over the course of 25 years. And so I'm not going to steal Michaela's thunder because she's going to walk you through kind of the history here of what we've been through in the past 3 projects and where we're currently at and how we've benefited from that. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Michaela.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent, and welcome, Michaela.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. And good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Michaela New with Green Cities Accord, and I'm here tonight presenting our 4th potential project in partnership. As a reminder, Green Cities Accord is a Twin Cities-based nonprofit, and we are your partner in increasing investments for the urban tree canopy. We're managing the largest urban tree carbon offset program in the U.S. with 5 projects established to date that have registered over 50,000 trees, 3 of which are with the Park Board. The other projects are registered with Hennepin County and City of St. Paul. Revenue generated by the sale of our offsets is invested into future tree planting and maintenance by our partners. And it is my understanding that with the tree levy expiring, there is a significant funding gap for planting trees, and that the Park Board is in need of additional funding mechanisms in order to plant at a similar level. The carbon offset program offers support to help bridge the gap between past and current planting budgets. And to date, proceeds from the sale of carbon offsets has allowed the Park Board to purchase 1,000 additional trees that will be planted this spring. Project 4 in front of you today will register the over 6,000 eligible trees planted in 2024 in our urban tree carbon offset program. This project is estimated to issue over 12,000 offsets during the 26-year project duration, with 1,200 offsets being issued in the first batch later this year. Carbon offset projects issue offsets at 5 different intervals throughout the 25-year project duration, and it's projected that the gross revenue of this project will be around $750,000, with the Park Board receiving about 80% of that revenue for continued tree planting and maintenance over time. Looking back on our 3 established projects in partnership, you will see that we have sold over 5,000 offsets to date, with the Park Board realizing over $140,000 in proceeds. Based on the sales of the remaining offsets currently issued, it's estimated that the net revenue for the Park Board will be over $84,000. And considering the projections we made for each project in previous presentations, we are on track to meet or even exceed these projections. In addition, this year we will see the second issuance of offsets from our first established projects this summer. Offsets are only issued after Green Cities Accord has sampled trees from the project and after third-party verification has been achieved. So once sampling and verification is done, over 19,000 offsets will be issued, and that's 40% of the offsets to be issued for Project 1. It's estimated that from this sale, of remaining offsets and the second issuance of offsets in Project 1, the Park Board will receive over $700,000 in net revenue. That number you don't see here, there is a typo at $400,000. The net revenue would actually be realized around $700,000. And that's after the $104,000 already received by the Park Board that is being utilized to buy trees to plant for this spring. So I know that was a lot of numbers, and so to summarize, Green Cities Accord has offsets available for sale and thousands more set to be issued, with the potential to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars to support the Park Board's tree planting budget. Selling offsets takes time as we build relationships and grow our local market. We've made very strong progress securing key buyers and ongoing commitments. In addition, internally at Green Cities Accord, we're actively expanding our capacity, looking to hire staff focused on sales and driving demand. So last, I'm excited to share a few partnership updates. We've recently announced our partnership with the Minnesota Wild, who will be purchasing offsets to mitigate team travel for the next 5 years. Additionally, the Public Utilities Commission has approved CenterPoint Energy's and Xcel Energy's Natural Gas Innovation Act plans, both of which include purchasing our offsets through 2030. So these significant partnerships, I believe, highlight the growing success of our carbon offset program and the impact on our urban forests. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michaela. That was very informative, and it's exciting to be reminded of the investment we have partnered with you to date. Any other further questions on Michaela's presentation? Thank you very much for being with us and taking the time to come out this evening. And Assistant Superintendent Barrick, do you have any other comments you'd like to make? Okay, great. With that, we will go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2025-56, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries. Can someone move the next resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2025-57, resolution approving a project implementation agreement with Green Cities Accord, MPRB Planting Project 2024.
Great, thank you. I assume we have gotten most of our questions answered. I don't see any lights on. Yes, sorry, Commissioner Alper.
Thank you so much for obliging me on this one as well. Appreciate it as a member of the committee. I just want to say appreciate your discussion, your points this evening, and I think it hit it home for me. You know, we are allowing the Wild to mitigate their travel. Mitigate. But we're not doing anything different. So that's the issue. That's the crux of the issue. And yes, we are certified by city forestry credits, but this is a voluntary market again. So anybody can define additionality any way they want, and put out their placard, and we can get their signature on it. So I just would again encourage you all to vote no, because we are enabling people to continue polluting, and here's the key: feel okay about it by purchasing our credits.
Thank you, Commissioner Alper. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, thanks for letting me speak on this committee, so I'll try to be brief. Just a couple thoughts on, needing an emergency, potentially, or a disaster to reseek a tree levy. We are currently in a climate disaster. It's kind of a slow boil, but if we continue on our trajectory, we're fucked, basically. So we are in a real emergency, and so I think it's important that we, when we come next to our legacy items, I'm not exactly sure what the project, what the process is. When we complete the, admirable projects that we went for with, road paving and our water systems. I really do think whoever's on the board that, they should, kind of consider, yes, we are in an emergency. Yes, we do know that trees are one of the, best ways to do this. And we need the funds for that, and we could maybe reseek that. And, I would also, say, kind of just reemphasize around the idea of simply offsetting and simply neutrality. Neutrality is not really an option anymore. We have to I think go beyond that. And so I would encourage, as, if we continue to go down the road with this program, and it gets more established, really, charging more so we can plant more trees. So we're not just doing a 1-for-1, ton of carbon in, ton of carbon out, which I'm still not completely clear that we're doing, but really making it negative, because we as a society have to do that. That's just kind of my 2 cents here. So we're in an emergency. Hopefully, when we next look at the tree levy, we can implement that again. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. President Abeni.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. I guess I'll say, it's an interesting discussion, and I hear my colleagues. I think there's other things to think about. Kind of long-term strategies will emerge. Behavior changes are important, things like that. And there's a little bit of a similarity to this program to some extent, and really how wetland banking works and the Wetland Conservation Act. And that came into place in the 90s. And it probably hasn't created a lot of new wetlands, to be honest, but it's saved a lot of existing wetlands and preserved them. And also really got the development community to understand that there's a cost associated with developing a wetland and modifying it. So I think, what this does, I think, is sets the stage for understanding that not all activities that are done by, flying in an airplane, if you're, the wild, have a way to directly prevent that carbon. So this is, I think, a good strategy, and I think it means that we're also then, as a society, moving forward, thinking about this impact, and as we can, we are doing some things to move in a positive direction. That's how I sort of see this as well. So I appreciate this, and I think this has been successful and growing, and I appreciate that, so I'll be voting. Thank you.
Thank you, President Benny. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you for letting me speak on this item. I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding. Our current budget, when we talk with the mayor at our current service levels, that includes 1-for-1 replacement. What we are trying to do is expansion with these dollars. So the 1-for-1, we do that already. We do that today in our current budget. When we talk about increasing the urban canopy and finding ways to address urban hotspots to ensure that neighborhood parks that have lots of open space that are not covered with trees, that are not fields, have trees in them. That's what we're talking about here. It's how do we have additional monies to expand the urban canopy beyond what our current budget allows us to do. And we're trying to do that via this mechanism to not have to increase property taxes, but increase the urban forest. And that's what we're trying to do here. So I just wanted to clarify that, since it sounded like there was a bit of confusion around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. And then one more. Commissioner Olson, let's say for the last time.
Sorry,
No,
I just wanted to clarify the clarification. I know that we're doing 1-to-1 planning and that this is additional growing the canopy. I was talking about the people who are buying the credits. They're polluting, like a ton of carbon or whatever. I'm talking about the 1-to-1 of their pollution. We could charge more, right? And that would allow us to plant more trees so that, say, you pollute a ton of carbon, we're planting 2 tons of sequestration. Or, that's, I think something that I would want to shoot for. And right now, I'd be really curious to know, are we at a 1-to-1 ratio, actually? Do you kind of get what I'm saying? Are we able to calculate that? Because if, we really want to have like a sort of a growth factor there.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Maybe we can follow up with Assistant Superintendent Barrick afterwards. I think we're ready to call a vote. I do not see any more lights. So all those in favor of Resolution 2025-57, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. That motion carries. May I have a committee member please move the next resolution?
I'll move Resolution 2025-58, a resolution authorizing using it reserve fund for the replacement of core network switches at headquarters, Southside Operations Center, and at the network co-location facility.
Thank you. IT. Anybody have a question on this? No questions. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The last resolution.
I'll move Resolution 2025-60. This is a resolution authorizing the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board to enter into an agreement for a lease with Interpark, landlord, with such leased premises located generally at the Government Center Ramp, 415 South 5th Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55415 for the period of April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2027.
Thank you. Would anyone like a presentation on this or have any questions for staff in regards to this resolution? I do not see any lights. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And Admin and Finance Committee is adjourned.
Okay, and I would like to call to order the Planning Committee. Secretary, could you please take the roll?
Commissioner Rucker,
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Olson,
Here.
Vice President Musich,
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Alper.
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right, what about, can somebody move the agenda?
I'll move.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda passes. Okay, can somebody move the
I'll
minutes?
move the Planning Committee minutes of March 5th, 2025.
Second.
We don't need.
No second needed. Perfect,
Oh,
thanks. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. So then we're on to our next, we have one action item. Can somebody move that, please?
I'll move Resolution 2025-52. This is a resolution concurring with the independent bikeway determination under Section 4F of the Transportation Act of 1966 for the Bassett Creek Regional Trail Project to be implemented by Three Rivers Park District project adjacent to and within Theodore Wirth Regional Park.
Thank you. Any discussion? Would anybody like to see a presentation?
I would.
All
I would,
right.
just a short one.
Perfect.
Chair Alper, Commissioners, I have a couple graphics I can show, not a formal presentation, but I do just want to say that this is a project for a large regional trail corridor, or sort of a long regional trail corridor being implemented by Three Rivers Parks. It does have federal funding, and so they have to go through the 4F process as many federal projects do when they touch parkland. The land, the park board land in question is at the very northern end of Theodore Wirth Regional Park. So this graphic, which shows Golden Valley Road on the top and Theodore Wirth Parkway on the right-hand side. Wirth Park has kind of this little tip of land separated from the golf course by the Burlington Northern Railroad. And it's actually a very small piece of that park parcel, so what is highlighted there in gray, that it is an area that's needed in order to turn what is today a narrow trail or even maybe just a sidewalk into a full regional trail corridor that will stretch from here essentially out to French Regional Park and also connect with other regional trails in that location. So the specific concurrence that's being made under 4F, as we've discussed in the past, there's a few different ways to satisfy 4F. In this case, it's called an independent bikeway or trailway determination, which means that when a trail is going to exist on parkland, that trail is essentially a park use by definition. And so it can have this special dispensation under 4F. And so there are certain parameters that need to be met. And in this case, this trail will be constructed and maintained entirely by Three Rivers as part of the Bassett Creek Regional Trail. The park board wouldn't have any responsibility for that. I think it's also important to note that though this is a permanent easement, which is necessary, as I understand, for funding purposes, permanent easements, this permanent easement and many that we write do have a reversion clause. So should this cease to be operated as a regional trail by Three Rivers, the easement would then revert back to the park board. So they have to continue to operate it in the way that it was intended under the easement, or the easement would revert. And that's mainly what I have, Commissioners.
Thanks. Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes, I just had one question. I was just pulling, I didn't look at the paperwork, but were there permanent easement fees charged Three Rivers or not in this case? And if
Chair Alper, Commissioner Schaefer, and I forgot to mention also, we do have a representative from Three Rivers, Josh Bowie is here. If we have questions about the project in particular. The easement fees were calculated, but we are, sorry, I should back up. The action before you right now does not grant an easement. The action before you simply concurs that if this trail were built on parkland, it would not have a significant impact or might have a benefit to park users. There will be an easement agreement coming forward before this board subsequently.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Okay, anybody else? All right, I just want to, I noticed that the project is being funded partially with federal funding. And, you know, I think we're in a pretty ominous federal funding situation right now. And I just want to share some information that I received from my day job. There was a new U.S. DOT order issued on March 12th from the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. And the key things to note are that they're doing a review of all IIJA awarded grants on a project-by-project basis since inception, so since November 2021, that aren't under an executed grant agreement. So I really hope that the case of this trail is that it is executed. I'll keep going while Director Arvidsson comes back to the podium. And they are flagging any projects that have green infrastructure, bicycle infrastructure, EV infrastructure, and a project purpose to reduce greenhouse gases. And they will recommend either to continue the project as is with no change, revised with a reduced or modified scope, or be canceled entirely. So I just want to say we're living in perilous times. I mean, I don't say that lightly, but this has never happened before. So I just bring that up because I hope the project occurs, and I hope you have an executed grant agreement. Please, Director Arvidsson.
Chair Alper, you're curious to know whether this Three Rivers project has an executed grant agreement? Because I think I would invite Josh Bowie to the podium to answer that question.
Sure.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Josh Bovee, Senior Manager of Engineering with Three Rivers Park District and the project manager for this project. Yes, currently right now we do have our agreement with MnDOT to procure, and they're basically our agent to receive the federal funds, and we have that signed last year. So this is one of the federal funding projects that we have that we believe are low risk and will proceed with the federal funding that has been identified for the project.
That's great. Glad to hear it. Seeing no other comments, I think let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes, and I will adjourn the Planning Committee.
At 23, I call to order the Recreation Committee. Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Alper,
Present.
Commissioner Menz,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Chair Musich,
Present.
Charles Rucker, Chair Rucker.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. Can I have somebody move the agenda?
So moved.
See the lights, no. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Can I have somebody approve the minutes?
I'll move the Recreation Committee meeting minutes of February 5th, 2025.
All those for?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, we have one action item in Resolution 2025-62. Can I have somebody read that?
I'll move 2025-62, resolution directing MPRB youth sports staff to establish a rec league option for preformed teams in MPRB youth sports by partner agencies, neighborhood councils, and/or returning park teams in MRPB league play beginning by fall of 2025.
All right. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Rucker. In this resolution, it identifies a need to utilize key performance indicators as designated by rec committee members, staff, and partner agencies to evaluate outcomes of centralized registration. And I understand that there have been ongoing conversations between yourself and Commissioner Menz, as well as the superintendent and community partner groups. Will there be discussion items coming before this committee so that the rest of the committee can weigh in on that as well?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Jack, if you want to come up and speak on that.
Thank you, Chair Rucker, Commissioner Musich.
Your mic's not on.
It's on.
Oh, is it? Okay. I just
Move
can't
over.
hear you.
Yeah.
Now I can
So-
hear you.
So it is our intention as we move forward and work with the partner groups to bring back in front of the board progress. And we expect this league to look very similar to the current recreation league that we're offering now under centralized registration.
Okay. So what I'm trying to verify is that the broader committee will be given an opportunity to weigh in and provide suggestions on anything that's going to come before the board, because this resolution did not. There was no discussion at the broader committee level. And it is my personal belief that it's a best practice to really try to get every member of the committee an opportunity to participate in the crafting of resolutions that they're going to be asked to vote on. So I just want to make sure that that element is something that we will have discussion around.
Chair Rucker, Commissioner Musich, it's our intention to bring that back once the league is developed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Menz.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rucker. Commissioner Musich, Vice President Musich, I think that that's the intention of this, is to get us talking more about rec and about youth sports. And the resolve clause in the resolution that suggests that there's quarterly updates from the staff, and then also that we are determining what those key performance indicators are. I think that I'm encouraged that we want to do this work in the committee, because I think that that's really important for this work to move forward. So thanks for your comments.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I just want to say, I think it's really inspiring when I see the action around several issues that we've had as a board the last 3 years, adding this one to the cadre. I mean, this is the benefit of having this kind of park board structure, right? And the benefit of having community voice, heard by executive staff, heard by elected commissioners. And I don't know, I think it's something to celebrate, both as with the community and us as the staff. I mean, you guys as the staff and us as the Board of Commissioners. And I just want to say, I think we should all feel really proud. And I want to say thank you for all the engagement that everyone gave, Commissioner Rucker, Commissioner Menz, and Superintendent Bangora, because I think it's a model. It's a model for really doing what's right for the community and working through our differences of opinion in a positive, constructive way. Thanks.
I don't see any more lights. I'll just add this, excuse me, myself. It's been a pleasure meeting with everybody, superintendent, staff, Jack and Tim, Commissioner Menz, myself, and the partner agencies. I can say there wasn't any argument. Everybody came to the table for one reason and one common goal, and it's the kids, period. And for me, centralized registration, we're hearing the numbers today, they're going to be a part of centralized registration, but in an open league. So I just feel like this is a win-win. We're going to continue to have conversations. We got a meeting next week. So that'll be 2 meetings in 1 month. And hopefully we just can continue on to just do the right things to make this league successful. Not just now, but in the near future. So with that being said, obviously I'm going to be voting yes for this. So Commissioner Menz.
Yes, thank you, Chair Rucker. Sorry to speak after you. I did want to make sure that the committee and the board president knows that the intention is not necessarily for this resolution to go to the full board at the following meeting. So because of what's happening between the staff and during this springtime, I wonder if Jack could come up and just speak to what was spoken to. This resolution is binding for fall, but I know that the staff is doing some work to make sure that preform teams and this resolution is beginning to be enacted even before that it starts. And to speaking to Commissioner Musich's concern about work being done not in the committee. So would you be able to speak briefly to like what staff is going to be doing to sort of move this forward since centralized registration just started, and how we're working towards the outcome of this resolution, which is binding by fall of 2025?
Sure. Chair Rucker and Commissioner Mensch, thanks for the question. I think our plans are to have, registration will open in June, right? So we got to get to work pretty fast and work with these groups. Our intention is to meet on a bi-weekly basis until this league is developed and formed. I think in principle, we're aligned on, how we will do registration, how we will do rosters, how we will, get coaches certified. We just have to figure out how it's going to, how we're going to merge that, or at least have that parallel to our current recreation league. And that's going to take some time, and we're going to have to, you guys are going to be coming, and Tim and I will be there, but we have to develop this, together. So getting into a lot of the specifics is going to be hard now, but I think we'll be able to come back. I mean, we'll be back in May, to be able to report on this, because we're going to have this out and advertising this, for June.
Hearing that from staff, that's why I'm asking for if the president or the superintendent would agree to put this resolution on the full board agenda for the first meeting in May, as opposed to, or the second meeting in April.
All right. President Benny?
Thank you, Chair Rucker. I'm not on this committee, but, so I wonder that, I've heard that there is, though, so procedurally, that it's better to not have a delay between when something comes out of committee and when it goes to the full board. I don't know if actually the secretary, so I would almost more be worried about the form of that. And then the other thing I'll say is that I think having this be, what I read the resolution as it's a limit, but it doesn't mean something couldn't happen before. It doesn't prevent things from happening inside of that limit, but I'll stop and maybe the secretary.
All right, Secretary Ringrose.
Chair Rucker, Commissioners, this is the first I've heard that there was an intent for it not to go committee and then full board at the next meeting. So what I would say is that by practice, we really should keep the rhythm, committee, full board. Now, if you get to the full board, you can decide to postpone it, and you can postpone it to a specific date. That would probably be the best procedural way, so it doesn't get lost in the overall system.
Commissioner Alper.
Thanks. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I just want to say I'm in support of this resolution, and really appreciate all the people who've spoken to share the impact that this has had on community members, particularly in North Minneapolis and on the south side in the Phillips neighborhood. When this first came to me, I really thought that centralized registration was moving towards a more, really focused on a more equitable model for kids. And as a mom to 2 kids who played youth basketball, I've heard about these amazing outside councils on the south side that, they had everything going for them, and my kids just, they went through Longfellow Park. So I thought, okay, we're doing the right thing by moving this way. But I really appreciate you bringing forward the ways in which we overlooked how we were creating, we weren't dismantling historic inequities. We were dismantling historic institutions that have really helped kids across our city. So I appreciate the direction of this resolution, and I'll be voting in support of it tonight.
All right, seeing no more lights, does this need to be a roll call vote, or? Okay. No roll call vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That passes. At 6:35, I adjourn the Recreation Committee.
Is that everything? We're done?